Hey guys, it's me. I'm here to show you how to make my famous from scratch fudgiest brownies that ever existed. Okay, so first you're going to need a bunch of ingredients. You're going to need some flour. You're going to need some vanilla. You're going to need some sugar. You're going to need some eggs. And you're going to need some kind of chocolate. So I prefer to use the baker's chocolate, the semi-sweet chocolate, because it makes the brownies really super fudgy and dark brown for your brownies. You're going to need butter, and then you're going to need some kind of cooking spray to prepare your dish when you're all ready to put your brownies in the oven. And you're going to need obviously a bowl and some measuring tools. You can have a measuring cup. I have some other little measuring cups. I have spoons and forks handy and a spatula for scooping out every last little bit of the fudge batter to put in your dish. So what I do first is I melt the chocolate and the butter. You can do it in the microwave, in a microwave safe dish, but I prefer to do it in a double boiler. If you don't have a double boiler, which I don't, you can make one yourself using two pots, or some pots. So I have one that's a little bit bigger, and then I fill it just a little bit with water, maybe an inch of water, and then I put the dry pot on top of it, and then I get it going on a very low temperature. Okay, and also I got ahead of myself. Please wash your hands, be clean your surface areas where you are working, and ask permission or ask for help for using the stove, because we are going to have the stove and the oven going. And you want to, while you're preparing everything, you can also get your oven on. I have mine. I cook my brownies on 350 degrees, and then it takes only 20 minutes to cook the brownies to make them really fudgy. Okay, so I have my double boiler on a very low setting, just enough to get the water warm. And my recipe calls for I use 4 ounces of the chocolate, of the baker's chocolate. You can use more if you want. I've done that before. Or if you have some cocoa powder, you can add cocoa powder and make it even fudgier. So what I do is I break it apart. So 4 ounces of the baker's chocolate in the double boiler. That's getting warmed up. And remember, you don't want to have your water boiling, because if the water gets into where your chocolate is melting, it's going to ruin the chocolate. So please be mindful of that. Then I'm going to put my half a cup of butter. Half a cup of butter is 1 whole stick. So I'm going to put that in there and get that melting up. And then have a spoon handy for stirring that up, because you don't want to cook the chocolate in there. You just want to melt the chocolate in the butter. You don't want to have a different cooking project or baking project if you cook it or burn it, because then it doesn't taste very good. So that's why you have it on kind of a low setting to melt it. If you choose to melt it in the microwave, same thing kind of goes. You just put it in a microwave safe dish, put the butter and the baker's chocolate in, and do it maybe 1 minute at a time or 30 seconds at a time. Stir it up, put it back in, because because microwaves sometimes can cook things or melt things unevenly. All right, so what we're going to do now is, while we're waiting for that to melt, and remember, keep an eye on it to have it melting in there. What you're going to do is, this recipe calls for 2 eggs. So I'm going to crack my eggs in here. 2 eggs. 1, 2. 2 eggs. Excellent. Throw my shells away. Oh, and welcome to my kitchen. I have a red kitchen. All right, so I'm gonna beat up the eggs. Beat them up. I use a fork, but if you have a whisk, you can use a whisk too. But I don't mind using a fork. It reminds me of my mom. She always used a fork. All right, so I beat up those eggs real good in my bowl. You don't need too big of a bowl because we're not making a bazillion pounds of brownies on one thing. I'm gonna check on my chocolate and my butter. Starting to melt. Getting the water hot on there. All right, then our next thing is it calls for 1 cup of sugar. It's a lot of sugar, but it's gonna be sweet and delicious. So I have a 1 cup measuring device here. And I'm gonna put 1 cup sugar. And I'm gonna pour it into my eggs. And then I'm gonna mix it up again. I'm gonna put my sugar to the side. I'm gonna mix it all up. Get it all mixed. Mix it. Get it combined really good. And once you get that all combined, this recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm gonna put my wet ingredients into this. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla smells so good. I'm gonna cover that up so it doesn't spill. Then I'm gonna mix that up. And then I'm gonna check my butter and my chocolate. See how it's doing over here. It's starting to melt. Can't really see the angle of the camera here, but it's getting there. If you can break apart the butter in the pot. I did have my butter out for a little while in high hopes that it would melt a little bit. Please be careful. Remember asking parents for help when you need it, especially working on the stove. Okay. All right, since we're waiting for that we're still gonna need one more thing of ingredients here. We're gonna need some flour. So on hand, I only had some bread flour. I didn't have any regular baking flour, but that's okay. And this calls for 1 cup. You can do a little less if you want fudgier, especially if you're using bread or cake flour because it has more gluten in it, so it really makes it a little bit, it won't make the brownies quite as fudgy. So I'm gonna go for just a little bit less than 1 cup of flour using my bread flour. So maybe not quite to the top of the 1 cup measuring device here. So I'm gonna add it to my eggs and my flour, and I'm gonna mix that up a little bit. Get that mixing. Normally, what I do is I mix the melted butter and chocolate into the dish before I add the flour, but since we're waiting, we're gonna do it different today. Kind of how like we're doing things in life, a little different, but it'll still work out. Okay, so I'm gonna mix that up pretty good. Combine up the flour, the eggs, and the vanilla and the sugar. Scraping the sides to get all the ingredients mixed up. These are kind of no-fail brownies. So even though we're kind of doing things a little bit backwards or twisted, they're still going to come out delicious. All right, so I'm mixing up my butter and my chocolate. It's melting really good. It's going to be in a matter of no time before it's all melted. Remember, melted, not cooked. All right, so our next thing, while we're still waiting for that to melt up a little bit, we still can do a few things. Remember turning your oven on to 350 degrees. We can prepare our our dish that we're gonna make our brownies in. I'm using a smaller dish to make them, and I think the size of this one is maybe 9 by 13. Earlier today, this morning, I made a batch of brownies just so you can see what they look like, and I used a pie plate because I didn't have 2 of these, and I wanted to show you guys to use the 9 by 13. But this is a finished product of the brownies using, I think this is like maybe a 10-inch pie plate, and I had poured the batter all in here and cooked all the ingredients that we mixed together in the oven for 20 minutes. That's all it takes. And you pull it out and they're done like that. All right, I'm going to stir up my chocolate and butter here. It's melting very nicely. The butter really is the part that's taking forever. I think it was pretty cold in my refrigerator. Okay, it's almost done. Okay, so we have another little thing that we can do. So preparing your glass dish so that your brownies don't stick on your pan, you can spray your things, or if you just have extra butter, you can smear some butter all into your pan. I like to use the spray because it's quick and easy, and sometimes I still use my fingers anyway to make sure that all of the pan is completely covered so that nothing sticks, because you want to be able to eat every last bit of your brownies, because these are going to be delicious. You can use them to make brownie sundaes or have them with ice cream. And you can decorate the top as well. I don't have a lot of decorating things here today. I have a napkin, my fingers are all greasy. Or you can add chocolate chips, or you can add vanilla chips, you can add nuts, as long as that's something you can add. You can add marshmallows, anything in your brownies. It's always fun. Okay, so everything is pretty much melted. I'm going to turn off my stovetop flame. I have a gas stove, so I have an open flame. Some people have electric stove, but you still want to turn off your stovetop, because we're all finished with that part. I'm going to use a pot holder. Be careful not to get any water from the bottom pot into your melted chocolate and butter mixture, because it kind of makes the chocolate yucky. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully bring my melted chocolate, as you can see, and I'm going to pour it into my flour, sugar, egg, vanilla mixture. Scrape it all in and carefully move that over to the sink. Put a little bit of water in there. And now you're gonna have the fun of mixing it up. I still have my fork in here. I'll scrape the sides, and I'm gonna really combine and mix everything together. And like I said, if you want to add more, you can add cocoa powder to make it even fudgier. If you want, you can do that. Or if you want, you can add even more of the baker's chocolate. I normally, like I said, I use 4 ounces. It's a whole bar of baker's chocolate to make it ultra fudgy. All right, so we're almost at that finishing point to get this in the oven. So I'm going to scrape off my fork. If you want to lick it, you can lick it. You're home. You're allowed to do that. Feel free. All right, so I'm going to combine a little more. I use my spatula so that I scrape the bottom of the bowl to make sure all of my ingredients are combined. Then, here we go. I'm going to pour in the brownie batter right into the pan, all the way in, and all the way in. I can smell it. It smells so good. If you're allowed, you can lick your bowl. If your parents let you lick some batter, it's always good. It's okay to do that. Okay, and then just make sure I tap it a little bit on the counter to make sure it's all even. Remember, ask for help for this if you're not allowed to use the oven yourself. And you're going to slide it in the middle rack in your oven, and in the middle of the rack itself, put your timer on for 20 minutes and check your brownies in 10 minutes maybe. Take a peek and see what's happening. And then at 20 minutes, stick a knife or a toothpick into the middle of your brownies. If it comes out clean, they're definitely done. If a little bit of brownie comes out onto your knife or toothpick, but it's mostly clean, then that's done as well, because then they're fudgy and moist and delicious. All right, and then like I said, this is what they turn out to look like, and they're so fudgy, they're easy to slice them down the middle. We're gonna have lots of brownies here. And voila, there's my brownies, ready to eat. All right, have fun with this, guys, and hopefully I'll see you next week for another Junior Baker session. I think I'm gonna make oatmeal cookies, which is always a yummy treat. And then later today, make sure you get up, do some exercise, run around your house, do some jumping jacks, and make sure you love up your family, and hope to see you again soon. Miss you all. Bye.